Yeah, so I think Deepak already introduced me really, but I'm the head of content at Ahrefs, which basically just means that I write all of the blog posts and handle the blog. I've been doing SEO. Before I joined Ahrefs, I was doing client work, mainly link building, creating content and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to get straight into it. So I've got quite a lot of stuff to kind of fit into this small slot. So the first one I'm going to talk about is guest blogging. So quick show of hands, how many of you have done guest blogging in any capacity before? Yeah, so I suppose this is quite a common link building tactic. So it's where you write a guest article for another website. And most people do it like this. So you go to Doodle, you type in a keyword, and you combine that with some kind of search operator, and you find these Write For Us pages. Then you scrape those, and you go through them, and you figure out which ones you want to actually write for and which ones you don't, which is kind of fine, but the issue with this process is it's just time consuming. Everyone's reaching out to these same sites, so everyone's doing this process. It's like the oldest link building tactic in the book, I guess. So all these websites that have got these Write For Us pages, they're inundated with requests, and a lot of them are sick of them. And a lot of these sites are low quality, and they want money, and all these kind of problems that you kind of run into when you're doing this. So one of the ways to fix this is not to chase these sites that have got these Write For Us pages, but rather just look for sites that talk about these relevant topics. So if you want to talk about X, just look for sites that have already blogged about that topic already, because the logic is that all sites, that everyone wants free content. It doesn't matter whether they've set one of these Write For Us pages up or not. A lot of these people that set these pages up these days, they just do it because they want to reply with everyone, they want money. So basically, yeah, just look for websites that have already spoken about whatever you want to blog about, whatever you want to write about. So you can do that on Doodle. You can use these search operators in the same way. So, for example, if we wanted to blog about parenting or write a guest article about that, you can, this search operator here. So we're basically just looking for blog posts about parenting tips. So any of the sites that get returned for that have spoken about that before, they've blogged about that before, so they're going to be a relevant site to reach out to and pitch a guest post effectively. So the issue with that when you're doing with Doodle at any time is that you've just got a hassle to scrape all those results out of Doodle and look through them. So a better option and an easier option is to use Ahrefs Content Explorer. So basically, if you're not familiar with this tool, it's like a mini search engine effectively. There's like 1.1 billion pages in here, and you can just use it like Doodle, so you can do an in-title search and all that kind of stuff. And you can see there that if we just type search for parenting, we get 90,000 pages with that in the title. And they're web pages, and you can just export those in one click, so you don't have to like scrape Doodle and do all this kind of crazy stuff like usual. So the issue with that, if you're using that, whether you're using Doodle or whether you're using Content Explorer, is you end up with a list of web pages rather than websites. So you don't want to reach out to these web pages. You want to reach out to websites, because if you just use web pages, you're just going to be reaching out to the same people time and time again. So if you're doing it in Doodle, then just filter, once you've got your spreadsheet, just filter out and get unique pages, so one per domain. If you're using Content Explorer, just switch this toggle on, and you'll just get one page per domain. So you end up with 25,000 pages there, which are potentially relevant sites to pitch. So the next step of guest posting is to come up with ideas. So this is not so difficult. If you're doing a few guest posts, you just come up with them. But it can become quite draining quite quickly, because it's quite easy to run out of ideas when you're pitching a lot of sites at scale. So one trick that you can use is basically to find a big article, like a popular article on a big site. So again, you can use Content Explorer for this, and we've got some filters in there to do that. So you can see there that I'm looking for quite lengthy articles on big websites about parenting again, or whatever topic you want to write about, and you end up with 2,500 pages there. And this is one of them. So you can see that this has got a lot of shares. It's a really popular article on the New York Times about how to be a modern parent. So what you can do is, once you find that popular article, just splinter it down. Take all of the different things that they talked about in there, and just they basically become good topics for standalone guest posts. Just what I did there is I basically just scraped the H2s within that post and just took ideas from that. So you can see that these H2s, these subheadings within the post, become guest post topics in their own right. So once you've got those topics, again, we're just taking that from one article, you can then create multiple versions of those same ideas, but just with different perspectives. So, for example, one of the topics about how to get your child to eat vegetables, you can just break that down into loads of different ideas and just keep pitching. And basically, if you just go to Google and just use the auto-suggest drop-down, that's how I got those. So if you just combine that process into one, you end up with a way to just get hundreds of good guest post ideas to pitch pretty easily in minutes, really. So yeah, then it's just time to pitch the ideas for guest post, which is quite straightforward, but just to give a couple of hacks, reach out to way more people than you ever need to actually write for or you want to write for, because not everyone's going to respond. In fact, most people don't. Excuse me. Yeah, so the other thing is to pitch the same guest post to the same sites, because again, people aren't going to respond. If they do respond and they want the same topic, well, it's not a big deal, just pick the best site and offer the other site something else. So again, yeah, so basically that's the process, and then you can just write your post and get published, which is the easy part because they've said yes, so you just need to write it. And obviously with the process, the result of doing that is a link like that in an author bio box, or depending on how given the site is, potentially within the content. So yeah, that's guest posting. I think it's just a little bit of a different way of doing guest posting, so you're not pitching the same sites as everyone else. So the next one that I want to talk about is broken link building. So again, it's not a new tactic. The idea is you find a broken link on a web page, you recreate that content or make it better, and then you reach out to anyone that's linking to that dead piece of content and you ask them just to link to you instead. So an example just to explain is there's a broken link that I found on neilpatel.com, so you click it and it takes you to this page on Backlinko, which obviously doesn't exist. And if you put that into the Wayback Machine, which basically is just an archive of content through time, so you can see that it looked like that in 2016. So it was a post about protecting your site against Google penalties. So once you've found that, once you've found a dead page with some links, you need to create something similar and then ask the people linking to that page to replace the dead link with your working link. But obviously you can take this idea further. So for example, with that particular example, we know that one person links to this thing because we found a broken link in the first place. So we know that one person's linking to that. But the thing is, if one person's linking to it, then the chances are that other people are linking to it too, because it obviously holds some value to one person, so it's probably going to hold value to another person. So if you just throw the dead URL into a backlink checker, for example, Ahrefs Site Explorer there, you can see that we've got 34 referring domains, so 34 unique websites linking to this dead page. So the translation of that becomes that you've got 34 link opportunities, basically. You can reach out to those 34 people and request that they change the broken link to your link instead. So the question becomes, how do you find relevant broken links in the first place? Because obviously we come across these sometimes on the web just naturally. You click a link, it doesn't work. But how do you do this strategically if you want to actually build links? So there are a couple of ways to do it. And the first one is to look for dead pages on competing sites. So if you just grab a competing site and you just throw it into a Ahrefs Site Explorer, a backlink checker, and you go to the Best Buy Links report, then add a 404 not found filter within that report, you'll see something like this. So basically what you do is this shows you the most linked to pages on that particular website, but because we've added the 404 filter, it's showing you the most linked to dead pages on that particular website. So you can see there, I've just put Backlinko in, and that's how I found that example before, because you can see we've got 34 referring domains to that first post. So anything that you come out of in that report is a potential broken link building opportunity, because it's a dead page, we've got people linking to it, so we could recreate it if we wanted. And you can find some crazy opportunities by doing that. Just one there with 938 referring domains to a dead page, which I think is the one that I used for a client a bit ago. So yeah, if you find a promising opportunity like that, the trick is just go and view it on the Wayback Machine, see what the dead page used to be, and recreate the content and do your outreach. So you can repeat this process obviously for as many competitors as you like. Just keep pasting them into Backlink Checker, Ahrefs Content Explorer, and go into that Best Buy Links report. So the other way, which is quite similar, is just to look for dead broken out links on a competing site. So again, you just paste a site into Site Explorer and you go to the Broken Links report this time, it shows you all of the broken pages that the site's linking out to, rather than broken pages on the site. So you can see there, backlink is linking to this page, which is dead. So if you export that report, and then you just copy and paste all of the links that you get, and paste them into the batch analysis tool in Ahrefs, which basically just shows you metrics for all of those pages in one go. You can paste up to like 200 pages in there. So set it to URL mode, and then you end up with a similar report to what we had before in that Best Buy links report. So you can see all of those pages on the left-hand side, they're all dead because we took them from that broken links report. And you get this similar kind of report, so you can sort by referring domains. And again, you can see that, for example, this page on bigcommerce.com, which is clearly a page about how to optimize your online store conversion rates. So that's got 45 referring domains. If you click through to the page, it is a dead page, you see that. So again, you can just recreate that content, put it into the Wayback Machine, figure out what it was, recreate it, and then reach out to all of those people. So again, the way to do that is just paste the dead URL into a backlink checker, just look at the backlinks report, and you'll see everyone linking to that page. So the third one is converting unlinked mentions to links. So that's what an unlinked mention looks like, nothing too complicated. So you can see that we're linked to there, we're mentioned there, but we're not linked to. And it happens quite a lot, especially for bigger and medium-sized brands. You see this happening quite a bit. So the opportunity is to just convert those unlinked mentions to links, because you're kind of halfway towards having the link in this situation. They've mentioned you, they obviously know who you are, they know what you do, and they care about you enough to mention you. So you can usually just find the unlinked mentions and reach out to them and just ask to make that mention clickable. If you use language like that, then it's not so much like you're asking for a link. But yeah, so a question again is, how do you find these unlinked mentions at scale? For your particular brand. So you can either use Doodle or you can use Ahrefs Content Explorer. If you're doing it in Doodle, basically just type in your brand in quotes, exclude your site so you're not getting mentions from your site, and you can see there's just crazy amounts of results. So again, the problem that we run into with Doodle is that exporting all of these results is a little bit difficult and time consuming, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So it's much easier just to use something like Ahrefs Content Explorer. So you can use the same search term in there, and you get basically 17,000 pages for that particular query. But what we're doing in either of those situations is we're only finding mentions. We don't know whether they're unlinked mentions or linked, because if they're linked, we don't want to reach out to them. It's all fine. So the trick that you need to do with that, once you've got the list of pages wherever you get them from, is to use the custom search feature in Screaming Frog. There are other ways to do this, but this is the best way that I've found to do it. So you can check each of those pages and see whether they actually link to your site or not. So I'll post this online, because the regex kind of query is a bit complicated. But basically, you just paste that into the custom search feature in Screaming Frog, and you just replace that where it says ahrefs.com with your own website, if you're doing this for your own website. And it basically just runs through the pages, and it checks whether there's any links to your site on each of those pages. And it'll just spit out basically any of the pages that don't have links. So what happens then is any that don't have links, you know that they've got an unlinked mention. Because obviously what we did is we just found the mentions of the brand, and then we checked the pages for links. So if there's no links on there, then it is an unlinked mention. So once you've got that list of pages, once you export that from Screaming Frog, you can just work your way through that, and you can just pursue any worthwhile opportunities. Just reach out to the site owners and just ask them to make that unlinked mention, just make it clickable so that you can get to your site. So just a bonus tip, look for links to domain misspellings. So there's a mention there of Ahrefs, and it's a linked mention, but if you dig into the source code, you see that they've actually done it wrong. So they've linked to ahrefs.com as opposed to Ahrefs. So they've basically tried to link to us and failed. So again, it's technically an unlinked mention, and it's an easy win if you just find those people and you just reach out to them and tell them that they've basically made a mistake. You can get a link that they've tried to give you anyway. So again, how do you find these mistakes? So the best way is just to come up with a misspelling of your domain, which is easy enough, paste it into a backlink checker, and see if there's any backlinks to that domain. And the chances are that some of those backlinks are intended for your website, because especially if the site doesn't exist, they're most likely intended for your website. So again, the difficulty becomes that pasting those sites, those misspellings into a backlink checker one by one is just a bit of a hassle and a bit time consuming. So the best way to do it is to use a domain typo generator. So you can find one there, domaincheckplugin.com/typo. Just paste in your actual domain, hit generate typos, and it just generates a big list of potential misspellings. And then what you can do is you can just copy and paste that into the batch analysis tool again. Use the domain mode this time as opposed to the URL mode, because we're looking for links to the domain anywhere on the domain. And you end up with that same kind of report, sort by referring domains from high to low, and you can see you get a list of these misspelled domains with backlinks, and then you can dig into the backlink report for each of those and find any links that are intended for your website. So again, yeah, just check the backlinks report and find if any of those links are supposed to go to your site. So that's how I found that example that I showed earlier as well. Basically, it just links to the wrong site. So yeah, that's the 3 link building tactics. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yep.
In terms of guest posting,
Yeah.
should you create the content first and then reach out, or reach out and then create the content?
I'd reach out before you create the content, because otherwise you're potentially creating content for no reason. I mean, usually someone's going to accept the content. If it's a good piece of content, someone's going to take it eventually. But there's not usually any point to writing beforehand, because it's just a less efficient way of doing things, I suppose. It does speed things up in terms of you can send the content over to the website quite quickly if you've already got it. So it's more of a, it's your choice really. But if you're doing it at scale, it's going to be quite difficult to, it's quite time consuming or expensive and to create all of this content up front. And you end up usually left with a few articles that you're just trying to get rid of. It's better to pitch the site something that really fits them, and then create it especially for them. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands. I think that's it, yeah. But I'll post these slides online anyway, so you can get that regex and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll hand it over back to Deepak.
Let's all give Josh a round of applause.